Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back. We're Censored Double Decreases. We're podcasting from Salem, Massachusetts. I'm Erin. I am eturowski, eturowski on Ravelry, and eturowski DBM on Instagram.
And I'm Anna. I'm at toilandtrouble and at circleofstitches on Instagram, and toilandtrouble and circleofstitches on Ravelry. And this is our second episode, and we hope you enjoy our new podcast studio.
Yeah, we got an upgrade.
My attic.
We have, I think, like 36 subscribers now. So thank you. We appreciate every single one of you. It's so encouraging after our first week to already have some people who are interested in what we're putting down here. So thank you.
We have some fun things to share with you folks today. We have lots of knitting projects to talk about. We're also going to touch on some current events, and then we have an interview with Angie, who is my friend who wore the beautiful blue braids and the photos for my When Rain Falls shawl, so you might recognize her from that.
Oh, and her craft is just so amazing. She spins her own yarn that she then puts into her cornrows and uses it as like an artwork slash hair slash beautiful, sparkly, majestic mermaid. Oh, you have to see it. It's amazing.
Yeah, so that'll be coming up, and we're really excited about that. And I guess let's talk about things that we have.
Let's talk about what we're wearing.
Oh, what we're wearing. There. Okay, yes. So I'm actually wearing one of my most worn shawls ever, and I'm in my usual all black today, except for my Egyptian cat leggings. But this is Paris Toujours by Isabell Kraemer. And this yarn is Tosh Vintage DK. The color's called Void. And it's just, super warm because it's a DK weight shawl, so super snuggly enormous. And when it's gross and rainy and cold out,
like today,
I wear this. And since it's gross and rainy and cold out a lot in New England, then I wear this shawl a lot. So that's what I'm wearing. And I'm also wearing hand-knit socks, of course. This is a barefoot podcast, so... these are just some plain socks that I knit out of my own hand-dyed. This is my classic yarn base. That's 25% nylon, 75% merino. And this color's called Fireable. It's got little rainbow speckles. And that's what I have on.
Great. And I was not going to wear a sweater because I wanted to talk about this on a later episode. But it's very cold up here, and I'm very cold right now. So this is my Comfort Fade cardigan. Andrea Mowry is the designer. I know a lot of people knit them last year. This is my, it's a hand-dyed yarn. It's Knit Picks Capra as the base, 80% merino, 20% cashmere, I believe. It's super soft. It does pill a little bit, but it's nice and snuggly and warm. And then I kind of did like a teal to purple gradient for the fade. And it's got this lovely shawl collar that you can hide behind if you want to. And thumb holes, most importantly. Mm-hmm. And then the shawl is, which I will take off because that's easier to do than removing my sweater. This is Whiteout by Melanie Berg, Maryland D. This is so nice, I've knit it twice. This is Shibui Lunar. I think this is Ash, and then I think, I always forget.
I think this is Fjord.
Fjord, and I think Blueprint is this one. Mm-hmm. So super squishy. I love this knit. It's so much fun, and I love lace, so this is right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and the Lunar is merino and silk, I believe, right? So it's just got the
prettiest
mulberry
sheen.
Silk. Yeah, it just has this awesome glow.
Yes, and it's a super fine merino, too, so it's very, 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 very soft. Wears very nicely. Must be blocked. Must be blocked. And then the socks. This is Knit Picks Felici. I don't know if you can see these. We're going to yoga some stuff here. This is their ice cream chuck colorway, and the socks are Mortimer by Rye Flower Knits. Hi, Melinda. Thank you for watching. I did a test knit for these ones for her, and I'm very particular, so I had to make the match. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe, but
yeah. We'll put in some pictures to compliment. Nice. So since last time, I actually finished the pair of socks that I was working on during the podcast.
Yay! Insert applause here.
These are my finished socks. And it's funny because I was working on my gusseting creases last time that we filmed, but I was actually off by one stitch. I wasn't completely centered, so I had to take that back out and do it over.
That killed you.
It did.
Yeah.
It killed me inside, so I had to take it out and fix it. I didn't actually rip the whole thing out. I just dropped a couple stitches and fixed where the increases were. But the interesting thing is that the socks came out, I mean, I never expect them to be matching, but there's a whole bunch of brown in this foot that wasn't in this one, so that's an interesting development in the skein. But this is the Miss Babs yarn that I always get at Rhinebeck. I get 1 or 2 skeins to make socks. I think this base was Hot Shot, and the color is Almost Paradise.
You have the regular version and the warm version on the other foot. But it's so pretty.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to wear these. And you finished your cowl.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with FOs then. That's a good place to...
Well, I'm just wrapping up the ones from last time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is Joji Locatelli's 3-color cashmere cowl. This is going to be a sample for Anna's Yarn Shop. I just blocked it off this morning, so it's freshly off the blocking wires and pins. And there's this, it's a nice little rib section, and then some eyelet stockinette, and then some stockinette stripes. And she goes over in the pattern how to do the jogless stripes. So I use that technique, which is basically you slip the first stitch of the second row of each color. Mm-hmm. And then there's this, just a stockinette section with little pearl bumps that are kind of hard to see in the velvet. And then some little chevron lace, super easy, a couple little stripes, and another rib for the border. This is Shibui Pebble. The colorways are velvet and bone and ash. And it's a cashmere blend. It's super soft. And it's just this nice, really delicate, block-friendly, really drapeable, wearable cowl. And I love it. It's going to look so pretty in the shop.
Yeah, I like that the purple is sort of tweedy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of the different colorways of the pebble, you know, they'll look more solid, or you'll get more of this tweed effect, and the purple looks really pretty.
So that's done. Hooray.
Beautiful.
And done in time for the yarn crawl.
Oh yeah, that's coming up in 3 weeks. So the Knit North Yarn Crawl is coming up in mid-March. It's the weekend of St. Patrick's Day, so we're busily getting ready for that. Had you started the bubble sweater last time? Oh, okay, so you've started that. Well, so let me talk about the thing that I'm going to be taking out. So on our last episode, I showed off my Nordiska, and I was about to start a sleeve, and I finished a sleeve, and they're supposed to be short, but it's hitting me right across the elbow, which is driving me completely bananas.
That's probably uncomfortable.
I'm going to be taking this out. Since I changed the gauge, my row gauge is also different, so I was sort of guessing at where to start it. And I had this inkling that maybe I should add a few more rows, but I was impatient, so I just went for it. And so that's what I'm going to be doing while we're chatting, is actually ripping my work out. Wait, wasn't I ripping out a little bit last time too? Because I had...
Oh, yeah, sock.
Yeah, last episode I was ripping out because I knit too much during the movie. And now I'm ripping out just because I made some bad choices.
So you couldn't... Could you go back and just cut it and rejoin it? Like, is this at a good place that you could just put a, like, cut across?
I don't think so, because it's right where the armpit's meeting, so I just think that that creates some potential for messiness.
Yeah.
It's fine.
That would be such a hack. Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's a process.
So, exactly. But I'm really happy with how the Harrisville Shetland has knit up, so... Yeah, okay.
They match.
Yep. Yep, there's definitely a theme happening here with the colors. I definitely have a color palette that I stick to.
No way. Who does that?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, let me talk about this for a minute while we're talking about similar color palettes. So one of the things I wanted to touch on this time is when you finish a project and you've got a bunch of yarn left over, what do you do with it? So I've been really trying to be mindful of like half skeins of yarn that I have in my stash. So when I saw this pattern for the Bubble Sweater by Stephen West, and I had left over, this purple is, I think, this color from my gradient, and the teal is this color from my gradient. So I had, I think, about 3/4 of a skein of each left over, and I thought, wow, this would be, I don't have enough for a whole sweater, and I don't think I would want to knit a whole one out of those anyway, because I have one, but it goes really well with the nightshades. So I said I'm going to use this for my main colors. So the body and the neckline and the sleeves are going to be the Harrisville Nightshades and Talk Radio. And then I think I have, so I'm done with the color part of the yoke, and I'm just onto the stockinette right before I separate the sleeves. So what I'm going to do is take this, the rest of, because I still have a little bit of the cashmere left, I'm going to do a bubble detail around each of the wrists before I put the cuffs on, and then I'll probably do longer cuffs with thumb holes too. So some little hacks that I'm going to include in this. But again, just to use up more yarn and kind of, it helps you keep a color palette too across your knitting, so you can mix and match more things as you wear them. And then I I didn't get to show these next to each other last time, but I mentioned that the shawl I designed, the jettison shawl, was my scraps from my starting point. So
I can hold this up while you show.
Yeah, so that's this one with some Shibui birch for the gray. But if you see this, this is my starting point. So I'm not going to unfold it because it's giant. But yeah, that's Skinny Dipping yarn is the bold colors, the blue, purple. I'm sorry, the blue, pink, and teal, and the purple is Anna's Yeti Love Note. And that, so yeah, they go nicely together. And
this purple,
yeah, that's you. And it's just a good way to use some of your leftover yarn, but you have to, think creatively, and you can pull things across projects, and also adds some uniformity to your wardrobe and makes it a little more cohesive with your knits.
Yeah.
So.
Way to make me feel bad about my drawer full of half-used skeins that I'm not planning on doing.
It's just an opportunity to create.
But see, once I've sort of worked with the yarn, I sort of feel like I'm emotionally done with that yarn.
Oh, I think they're the gifts that keep on giving.
But you're making me reconsider, maybe. Or, just making me feel guilty. I'm not sure. Nice, that looks awesome.
Thank you.
I think we were on a little bit of a Harrisville kick, right? Because you're using the nightshades for your bubble sweater. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, Erin did film a tutorial for the bubble stitch.
Yeah, so there's a quick little 2.5-minute video. We'll insert it, I guess, here, because it would be dumb to insert it retroactively and then mention it here. But we'll put it in the video proper for this episode, but I'll also put it separately on YouTube so that you can just watch it if you're doing the sweater. The way that he describes the bubble stitch, Stephen West, in his pattern is a little unclear. He leaves out a little step, and I just went through it to make it a little clearer. And it's actually, you do like the small 4-stitch version of it for the first couple rows. And then when you get down to the lighter part, it goes down to a 6-stitch version of it. So, but yeah, we'll stick that in and it'll be helpful. I think it's a really fun knit. I like it a lot.
All right, so we will pause right now and insert that video.
Pause. Hi, this is Erin from Censored Double Decreases. I just wanted to do a quick tutorial of the bubble stitch. I'm knitting Stephen West's bubble sweater right now, and his instructions aren't quite as clear. I was a little bit confused, so I just wanted to make this to clear it up for everybody, hopefully. So you can see here, I've just completed the bubble stitch from the last repeat. It's a 4-stitch repeat every 6 rows. It's very, very simple. There's just one critical step that he didn't really explain. So there's 3 stitches in between, so I'm going to knit these 3. 1, 2, 3. And then his instructions say, insert needle into stitch from 4 rows below, pull yarn through, and then drop the 4 ladders of yarn above the stitch you just knit. Well, it's not really dropping the ladders, it's dropping the live stitch. So here we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches down, insert the needle, pick up that yarn, pull it through, and then this is important, you're going to drop the live stitch, and then I use the left needle to pull those out and make the ladders a little more defined. And then you knit the next 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it's time for the next one. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, insert your needle, pull through the yarn, drop the next live stitch, and undo your ladders. And then you repeat. So it's pretty easy. He just doesn't mention to pull that live stitch off of the left-hand needle. He just says knit through the 4th stitch, and if you leave that stitch on the needle, it's going to mess up your stitch count. So hopefully that makes it a lot easier. It's a really fun knit. I really recommend it. And if you've got any questions, write them below in the box and we'll get to them in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Okay. So we hope you found that helpful if you decide to knit a bubble sweater. And yes, so we're talking about hair. So you're working with the nightshades in that. I'm working with the Shetland in this. And I actually have an FO that is not completely an FO. This is where I'm going to admit to one of my personal knitting shortcomings. I am a button failure. So this is my rivulet knit, and also in Harrisville, Shetland. I'm really enjoying this yarn right now. And this was originally designed for a loft, but I wanted to try a different wool and spun.
Didn't you have a mishap while you were knitting this?
Do you really have to bring up the fire?
It's funny.
The fire?
Sacrifice yourself for the entertainment value on us.
Yeah, while I was knitting this, I had my yarn down on the table, and I went to light a candle, as one does. and then I don't even know how it happened, but I dropped the match on the ball of yarn. So let me tell you, it's definitely 100% wool because it burned very easily. And thankfully, I had an extra skein just in case. So now there is a sad, half-burnt skein sitting down in my bedroom. Yeah, it was terrible because it fell on the skein, so of course I started smacking it to try and put it out. So then it rolled off the skein onto the working yarn where it was still attached, and then I got mad at the project and put it aside for a few weeks because at that point I just felt very personally injured by the whole process. But
it makes a good story.
But thankfully I finished it. I love it, but what it's missing is there's these 2 buttons that you attach to it so that you can, wrap it as a cowl and have it secured. And I've already picked out the buttons, but now, again, I feel kind of emotionally done with it, so I'm like, yeah, I'll put the buttons on it, and then I put it aside.
That's how I feel about pom-poms.
Yeah, I don't have that problem with pom-poms, but I have 2 cardigans that I have finished 2 or more years ago that still don't have the buttons. Because, like, I've picked the buttons, but I just have this thing where I can't sew them on. I don't know why. So I'm publicly admitting to it, and hopefully next time I will show you all my projects now with buttons.
And if you'd like to button shame Anna, please feel free to do so in the comments. Button inspire.
Yeah, I actually did an Instagram poll to see which buttons I should pick, but then I was just like, okay, now we've decided it's done. So, but this is Rivulet. And you have another Harrisville.
Yeah, so this is the sweater I talked about last time. It was finished last week, but I hadn't blocked it out yet. I blocked it this morning. It's actually still a little bit damp and citrusy. But this is the Miranda sweater by Josie Paquin. Her Instagram handle is UNIKnit, so there's her works are linked on Instagram under that. I think that's her Ravelry handle too. We'll put it in the show notes. And I love this sweater. The yarn is it's a mill-end skein, 6 of them by Harrisville. And it's about 30 yards per skein, Erin weight. So I used all 6 of them, including my swatch, which I had to unravel. And even then the sleeves are still a little bracelety length. But that's what I wanted. I sacrificed that because I wanted the hood and the kangaroo pocket and a little bit of extra length. So it kind of sits on my hips and not really on my waist because it's a substantial fabric. And I wanted it to not be short. I wanted it to be long and snuggly. Yeah. So $48 for this sweater. And I love it. It's squishy, soft, and warm. It's a merino mohair. I think there's a little bit of silk in it blend. And it's this lovely tweedy, like an iris color, I guess, with the cobalt blue purple and some little light olive green flecks in it. Really, really pretty. Again, not the color I would usually gravitate toward, but it just works. I love it.
Sorry, there's a cat here off camera trying to sleep on my shawls.
Munin wants to have a part in what we're doing today. So that is the Miranda sweater by Josie Paquin.
Nice.
It took me a month.
I have another Harrisville FO to show off, and this project I did not knit this, but this is a collaboration that I did with Alberg. Mm-hmm. They are a designer based in Canada, and I've followed them on Instagram for a while, and we sort of connected over our shared interest in, knitting and witchy things, and they sent out a newsletter saying that they were going to become full-time designers, and I wanted to know how I could support that transition, and so I reached out and I said, I love your work, and I was wanting to highlight Harrisville specifically as well as a local, yarn producer, and I said, can I commission you to design a pattern for us, and we can put together kits. So Ash designed this really beautiful shawl. It's using Harrisville FlyWheel, which is a sport weight, and
that's so soft.
And of course I picked a purpley color.
No way.
And so this was just a really beautiful collaboration. And we now have this, you can get the pattern on Ravelry, and you can also buy kits with the yarn included from our shop. I'll put a link up on that.
How many skeins is that?
It's just 3 skeins of
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so it's a quick project, and Ash did such a wonderful job, and I'm so excited to be able to collaborate with them, and we're actually sort of scheming a few other things already for 2020. I know that 2019 just started, but we already have some things in the work that I'm super excited about. I'm actually going to FaceTime them Tuesday, so we get to speak sort of face to face for the first time, other than text chat. So I'm really excited for that.
I feel like when we talk about the yarn is just so unique because it's all very textured, like not tweedy, but there's a lot of variegation in each, like just as a string of, we should take pictures of
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
the close-ups, that like a macro, so that they can see all the variance and like just even a couple square inches. It's
Absolutely,
really,
yeah. Let's
really
pause
neat.
right now for photos. All right. So, yeah, I agree. It's just such a beautiful yarn. We should actually put in some photos of when we visited the mill last summer because we actually saw, the giant piles of wool because all the yarn is, it's dyed in the wool and then they spin the different colors together to get their different blends. So it's not like they spin the yarn and then dye it in the skein afterwards. So.
Right. It's like when you're watching an oil painter, like they'll take their palette and they dab a little bit of the red and a little bit of the green and a little bit of the yellow, and then they fleck that onto the canvas and not mixing it all together and then painting little bits at a time. It's a really interesting process.
Yeah, and I really enjoy working with them, and actually they just released a new pattern with Whitney, the designer who they've been collaborating with for the Nightshades collection. She just came out with a new collection actually in the in the Harrisville Shetland, and there's a new sweater called the I don't know if it's Carlina or Carlina the way they pronounce it, but it's this beautiful yoke with this sort of herbal theme going, and I am dying to cast that on. I'm going to knit that, but I need to finish this first because the sweater challenge ends on March 7th.
Yep.
So
that is a week and a half.
Yeah. So I know that you said you don't want to knit any more sweaters this year, but
No,
I'm gonna knit like 50.
I'm gonna move to spring garments after this. I wanna start with my linen and my finger. I have so much hedgehog, like a sweater's quantity of hedgehog and goblin that I want to knit into probably a dignity. So lighter weight stuff starting in a couple weeks, hopefully.
That's fair. Do we have any other FOs to show off? Knitted FOs?
I don't think so. I feel like I had something else in my bag.
Well, I have a cross-stitch project to show off while you look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I'm primarily a knitter, I try to dabble in different fiber projects and collaborate with other, makers who I admire. So this is a cross-stitch that I finished. It's the Feminist Kit, and it's made by a duo called Junebug and Darling, and they are two queer cross-stitch designers. And we carry these kits in the shop, and I just absolutely love them. So,
and they're quick. Just finish that.
Yeah, they don't take long. What I need to do now is I need to take this off the hoop and wash it, and then put it back, and then sew on the backing. But, that part kind of feels like the whole button thing to me.
Right. You can just use wool wash, like soak on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. The problem, so speaking as somebody who used to cross stitch and spend a lot of time on projects, the problem you'll get is you get like a ring of hand oil if you're not careful. So, and what some people will do is take the edge and just kind of pin it over so that you're holding the back.
Oh, really?
And not getting, like on a little thing like this, it's not a big deal, but when you're working on something on a big frame or on a hoop, it's a bigger issue because you'll notice that you got definitely a ring around where the edge of the hoop is. So just as a reformed needlework artist here.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean, that takes, a couple hours, but when you've got something a little more substantial, it definitely shows if you're not careful.
Look at this. This is so sad coming out of the color work on my sweater.
Oh, well.
Okay.
I wish we could have a picture. You know what? I am going to take a picture of Munin because he looks so cute right
so
now.
there's Munin, my cat, is sleeping on the chair right next to us, and it's so cute.
Can we talk about things that we've done outside of knitting this week? Like, why my phone is different.
Oh. So Erin has a new phone.
So there was an incident last week. We were so happy about going out to dinner after we finished the podcast. We go to Gourmet Garden and we have our food. And as we're leaving, we're pulling out of the parking lot, and there's this tiny little under-equipped front-wheel drive car that got stuck in the intersection. And he would have had it. Like, if he would have just backed up off the rampy part of the intersection and just gone from back there, he would have had the momentum to make it fine. However, he was stupid. So
yeah, for people who don't remember, there was a snowstorm
nor'easter,
last time
blizzard,
that we filmed this.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you got this, buddy. Just, back up and try again. Well, before he does that, the guy behind me gets out of his car, and I'm like, well, okay, now I'm the jerk if I don't get out to help. So I get out to help push, and, I'm strong, so it was fast. Like, we only pushed a couple times, and he goes. However, at some point during that 30 seconds, a minute of pushing, my phone fell out of my pocket and into the snow. And I didn't realize it until I got back to Anna's house. And by the time I made it back to the intersection, the plows had been through and it was nowhere to be found. Like it was probably smashed before it rested somewhere, and the location was not where I couldn't find it. So I have a Pixel 3 now. It's a great phone. It has a really nice camera, which is good. But it's not the paid for Pixel I had last week.
We were supposed to both be celebrating new phones today. I have a phone that has been at least 2 years overdue for an upgrade, and I finally bit the bullet and ordered a new one, and it arrived on Friday, but apparently they sent me a defective model that won't activate ever, so I'm still using my old phone, and I'm really sad about it, but hopefully I will have a new phone again tomorrow,
Soon enough.
and hopefully it works this time, and then I can take better cat pictures, which is very exciting.
I found my other thing I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay.
So since I finished my shawl, I wanted to start another pattern. This is just some playing around. I want to do something in brioche. So I was just playing with some stitches. I don't have anything finalized yet, but I'm going to have this out probably in the next month or so. I'm envisioning some kind of footwear. We'll see how it goes. I've got an idea. I think you'll like it. So I'll keep you updated as that progresses.
Nice. Yeah, and I actually wanted to talk about a new to me yarn dyer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I get plenty of emails at the shop from folks who want to send us stuff, and I got an email from Sarah about her yarn, and she's traveling yarn on Instagram, and she has a yarn of lines called the Less Traveled Yarn, and they just arrived a couple days ago, and I'm absolutely delighted with them, and I just brought 3 of the colorways that I really like. I went for her 757 base, which is a merino with nylon for socks, and it is really, really pretty. These are not up on the shop website yet, so you'll just have to covet them for a bit while I get that done. But take a look at these. They're absolutely stunning. They're super squishy, and she's in Phoenix, Arizona. And this colorway in particular, of course, I'm completely in love with because it's called Witchy Woman, and it's purple. And it's so pretty.
That's perfect. And it's a nice. This will be really nice socks.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're even putting this one up for sale because she might as well have named it Anna.
Yeah. Well, I have this personal rule where if it's too close to the yarn call, I'm not allowed to just hoard the yarn.
That's fair.
But it's hurting me. This color here is called Aspen. And it's really pretty, but I also thought that I should show something that isn't purple. For once, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what we got today, it's permutated.
Yeah. So this is purple-esque.
Mm-hmm.
This one's called Berry Bramble.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really pretty, and it's got some bits of... Alright, so we lost a little bit there because we're still learning a little bit on the technical side.
We'll get there, it's fine.
And our memory card got full, so... Now we know, but we were just finishing looking at this beautiful, beautiful skein of Aspen by Traveling Yarn. And coming up next, we have a discussion with our friend Angie about her hand-spun braids, and a little bit of a discussion about current events. So stay tuned, coming up next. We have our friend Angie here.
Hi.
And yeah, it's a rainy Sunday. We went rock climbing yesterday. We're all feeling a little rough.
Mm-hmm. But it's not snowing.
It's not snowing, but we will insert some pictures of our rock climbing experience for you to enjoy. And it's been an interesting couple of weeks since our last episode. Oh, also, quick note, we hope you like our improved setup. We're working on it. But I wanted to kick off today with a little bit of a discussion of current events and some of the things that have been happening in the last couple weeks in the knitting world. And I wrote myself some notes because a lot has happened and it's a little bit impossible to cover everything. But I went out on Friday night for drinks with a friend of mine, to discuss smashing the patriarchy and such other topics as one does over drinks. And my friend's not a knitter, but she follows me on Instagram, and she said to me that she loved seeing that I was helping shake up what is considered one of the last, sheltered havens for white women in the world. And, since she's not a knitter, she's not aware of the conversation at large that's been happening, but I sort of helped give some information on that, and to say up front that this is not by any stretch an attack on white women, but a little bit of an understanding of how privilege is playing into everything.
We've got another guest star here.
This is Munin. And so within the last couple of weeks, we had articles written, well, not we, but there were articles written in Quillette, which I hadn't heard about, but apparently is a pretty right-wing publication, in the Inquirer, and a few other blog posts, and there were just a couple of things that I wanted to address. The Inquirer article specifically talked about microaggressions and said people are being overly sensitive to them, and was really dismissive of a lot of the conversations that are happening. And then Quillette had an article that they titled "A Witch Hunt on Instagram," and they specifically said, "Let's hope the world of knitting can return to a focus on designs, colors, and the value of something that's unique and handmade, rather than nationality or race of whoever made it." And then there was a blog called Hat Junkie that wrote a post called "Put Down Your Pitchforks and Knitting Needles, and Support Those Who Wish to Speak and Respect Those Who Wish Not to Speak." And this was specifically in response to the situation with Kate Davies, which I'm not going to recap here. But I just wanted to say that, we don't support that kind of silencing, that kind of dismissal, and that, the world of knitting can't return to just focusing on fibers and colors, because it's an extension of real life. And these are issues that are happening in real life. And there's been a new blog that's been started called Unfinished Object. Rather than focusing on these voices that are trying to silence opinions or redirect us back into, only talking about the easy things, we should really continue paying attention to these voices. And some of the women who have been sort of instrumental to this whole process have started their own blog, and it's called Unfinished Object. And this blog is written by these folks on Instagram: The Color Mustard, A Stitch to Wear, Ocean by the Sea, and Sukrita. There's a bit of punctuation in the name, so I will put a note about that in the show notes, but I encourage everyone to go ahead and read that. Thank you. Now we would actually like to take some time to chat with Angie, who you might recognize from the photos of my design that came out last week, When Rain Falls, this shawl right here. And she was the really beautiful model with the blue and silver braids that she spun herself. And Angie lives here in Salem, and we met over tarot. And Erin got to know her a little bit through more fiber explorations. And so, Angie, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started spinning your own hair? Because that's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, I got started spinning in general. I'd say maybe 10 years ago, I discovered somebody on the internet where I get all my ideas. And her name she goes by Plucky Fluff. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she did some really interesting things with spinning. I've never really thought of spinning before. And so it took a long time, because spinning's primarily done, at least at the time, by 90-year-old women who don't use the internet. So I couldn't figure out where to get a spinning wheel, how this is done, if it's still done by who. There was no real information. So a lot of digging, a lot of networking, and I finally found somebody who was selling a used spinning wheel, which thank God, because they run about $900. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have that. So I found one for $200, and I sort of taught myself. And then there's this as a convention, I don't know, but it's again a group of very passionate women who knit and spin. And I went up and they taught me the basics, and then YouTube taught me the rest. And I started spinning decent yarn. I don't knit. I don't want to knit. I'm sorry. I just don't like it.
That's
so
okay.
I had to figure out something to kind of do, and
I'll convert you one day.
Good luck. So I've always kind of lived a creative life, but I'm not particularly creative in the way I look or the way I dress or whatever. And it's something.
I don't agree with that at all.
Well, now now it's a little different, but at the time, so it was kind of the braids were kind of a way I could kind of do something that was an expression of myself, but something that I manipulate. You have to have control on this. So then I started making braids, and it worked, and I've been wearing them ever since. So it's been 2 years, and every few months I have I call them my fun fantasy weaves. So I have my spring one, my winter one, my summer one. It's fun.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that you probably remember that I saw a picture of you on Facebook before we ever met, because
Yeah.
we're both part of this giant Facebook group called Fiber Artists and Spinners or something. I don't know. It has thousands and thousands of members. And you had posted a picture of yourself after a mermaid festival, I think, at Coney Island.
Yeah, that was like my coming out as a mermaid.
Yeah, and I didn't even know, like, I had no idea you lived in Salem. I had no idea who you were, but I just saw, I'm like, look at that awesome woman with her beautiful hair. And then we met at a tarot event. I don't even know, like, you know, how many months or weeks later.
Yeah.
And you sort of told me that you were a spinner, but I hadn't fully connected the dots. And then you mentioned the Mermaid Festival, and I was like, oh my god, it's the beautiful woman from Facebook.
Sweet.
So that was really cool. So can you show us what you brought?
Yeah, so I got my first commission. Yeah, I was like really excited about that. And this woman, she has dreads, so it's like very long dreadlocks, and she wants yarn to kind of wrap around them and do fun, beautiful things with. I don't know the procedure she's gonna use. However, she wants to use my yarn, so I made like my mermaid yarn. So I have this technique where I spin it, but then I wrap. I believe that the proper name is like Angelina. It's a type of like synthetic fiber, but it's sparkly, and then I'll wrap it around that as I spin. So I haven't sealed it yet. You're supposed to kind of, I steam it and then I'll like trim it up a little bit, so it's still kind of raw, but it's fun, and so I think it came out well.
It's really pretty. I like how the sparkles are just like every color, and there's some nice texture in there with some of the thicker, less tinseling, more yarny pieces.
Well, I did it primarily because she's gonna, because it's not, you don't like, I feel spinning for like a garment would be a little different because you want it all uniform, because you don't want like crazy, but she's gonna be cutting this up and using them individually, so I made, there's like lengths that are very different from each other, so that way she has variety.
Nice. And I approve of it being purple, because we both love purple a lot, so...
It is a good color.
Welcome to the purple color.
Thank you.
I like that that's the one that you chose to bring. So I'm really curious about, you know, making of braids, like how do you know how much yardage you need to get a full head of hair like that?
Yeah, so trial and error is a lot of that. But I found for me, I have a very, very large head, and I have like 4 strands of hair on it. So it was kind of difficult to kind of figure that out. So the process for this, the method I'm using for this is called crochet braids. So the way this is done is I cornrow my hair, which if you're not familiar, it's a very tight reverse French braid that are evenly distributed, like maybe 10 around my head. And then you braid this, I braid it on a clothes hanger. And then so I braid it, I break the clothes hanger, so what I have is a long braid with a little loop on it. So then you take a crochet hook and you take the loop and you put it under the braid, and then you loop the braid within it, and then it's secure there. So you do that all down the length, and then when it's finished you have a pretty good head of hair right there. And then if you want to take it out, you do the reverse. So I use, for my head, for doing like maybe 15-inch braids, I use about 8 skeins of, 8 braids of fiber. And this is yak silk.
Wow. And so 8 braids, 8 like 4-ounce braids? Like, how much?
That's a good question. I think they're all roughly 4. Some of them are a little less, some of them are a little more, but 8 4-ounce. And then I tend to spin, this is the thickness I tend to spin, so they're like fairly thick braids as well. If I was doing thinner braids, I would need more. I mean, it's more eyeballed. Yeah. Again, everything is just...
And so was the stellina already part of the braids, or is this something separate that you spun in? Like the sparkles that already came in the braids?
Oh, no. I spin all that in. So it's just fiber it's just purple fiber, and then I spin everything, and then I braid. Occasionally, so the braids that are in on this picture is, I plied it with, I found this, I guess it's like a novelty yarn, but there's Toujours crystals on it. So I plied that in there, so like, you can see me from space in that. It's like, it just shines, it's great. But
that's awesome.
It's just different things for different ones. I have one set of braids where I processed cocoons into silk, and then I spun that in there, so that was, it's fun.
Nice. And so how many different sets of braids have you made for yourself at this point?
One for every season, and then I'm working on a 4th for like, I don't know, just fancy
How long do you keep them in for?
Well, they're heavy, and my hair lately has been growing quite fast, so I usually do about like 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
For me, that works. For other people, that might not, or other people might be able to keep it in longer. But lately, it's been like 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. And you said you can wash them normally, you know, yeah.
Yeah, so I typically use like a dry shampoo because with this, you can, I did it. However, when you, this is heavy, and then when you put a ton of water in it, it's very, very heavy.
Yeah.
And then you have to be careful, like if you dry it, you really have to dry it because otherwise natural fibers can mold. I don't want that in my hair. So,
right.
you know, so I find like with a dry shampoo, that works best for me. But I mean, I don't know, like for instance with your hair, I'm not quite certain how one would take care of your texture of hair. So what works for me might not work for you.
Right. Yeah, and I hadn't thought about the weight. It reminds me, you know, some internet thing of a woman who had hair so long that, you know, it was way beyond her feet, and it was this whole thing where when she washes her hair, she has to schedule 3 days out for the whole washing and drying process.
Yeah.
I just
imagine?
No, I can't even imagine dedicating that much time to
like any more
washing
than
my
5
hair.
minutes in the morning is too much.
It's hard to
do
do
it.
nails sometimes. And
I
it
know.
only takes 15 minutes.
Oh, also when I take them out, you sell the stuff, but it's the little bottle of
soap?
wash. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wash.
I use soap for that when I take them out.
Nice. They are super cool.
Oh, thank you.
I can understand why you don't, you know, want to knit when you can just make beautiful hair instead. But I think one day we'll convince you otherwise.
Okay. There you go. For the challenge.
What's your favorite kind of fiber to use for these braids?
I like the yak silk because just from a spinning perspective, the texture's great. It's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends on the look that you want to go for. Like I've seen like some of the work girls that do the dreads, they definitely use like a merino, and it gives a different look to it. But that's not my personal style. But like I appreciate the efforts and all that.
Yeah, you probably get a really like a nicer sheen with the yak than you would with
Absolutely.
merino.
I think it looks a little more elegant.
Yeah, especially with the dark colors. It's really pretty.
Yeah. Thank you.
They don't like felt, do they? If you
No, I was really concerned about that. Like when I did the mermaid thing, I was like, I can't sweat today. It was like I was in full sun. I was really scared, but
well, yeah, I was just thinking of that because of course it's mostly non-superwash fibers, but you know, just from sweating and sleeping on them, they hold up really well.
They do, and if you were to wash it normally, like I would be concerned, like as when people use like hot water plus
right, then
friction,
agitating,
that'd be a concern, which is why dry shampoo is a friend.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just had kind of a horrifying thought: the people who spin cat hair into yarn and then making cat hair braids.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll leave that one to you.
You know, I think I'm all set. But
But
that would be another way to interact with your cat's hair, I guess. Just
or to immortalize your cat after it has to go to that great cat tree in the sky.
Did you just spin cat hair? Is this a thing?
There's a whole movement of cat hair crafting.
They do more with dog hair.
So uncomfortable.
Because
really?
It's longer. Like I have a friend who collects fur from his Great Pyrenees, and he spins it. Or I don't think he actually spins, but he has it to be spun. But I think it would be easier with like long undercoats of dogs than it would with just little cat hairs. Unless you have like a fluffy cat.
I mean, is it coarse or is it soft?
Never touched it. Never seen it in person. Just incidentally, whatever happens to work its way into.
Yeah.
Never in knitting.
See, because I have 4 cats, people sort of assume that I'm completely immersed in catness, which is not entirely true. So people are like, oh, you should make this with cat hair and that with cat hair. And really, I don't really want to do that. I just want to vacuum it up and sort of be done with it. Because it's very present in my life. I don't need to, you know, make keepsakes out of it.
It'd be kind of interesting to spin this something kind of thin and then like, I don't know, if you have like a giant project, like leave a little bit in. I don't know.
I will save you lots of cat hair if you would like to try it.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah, Erin, you have like an endless supply of different cat hairs that you could
yeah, but I see cats that have like fleas and ringworm. Like you don't want that in your fiber. That's gross.
That's fair. Yeah, Erin, as a vet, works with a lot of animal rescues and
fixing animals that need to be fixed.
Yeah,
and sometimes that means skin conditions, unfortunately, but fixable ones. That's good.
Yum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you started spinning what 2 years ago?
I learned how to spin like a quality yarn 2 years ago, but I'd say I've tried spinning for about 5 years, and it took me a bit of time to actually figure it out.
Nice. And so I guess, do you have any ideas of where you want to go next with your spinning?
Yeah, I want to head more into the art yarn in the sense, like, this is art yarn, but this is just art yarn in the sense that there's like fun things on it. I want to actually change like the structure and like I have a drum carder, so you can add a lot of fun things in there. Like I've seen people add like bits of newspaper, which sounds weird, but actually the effect is really nice. You could change textures. Like there's a lot.
I've never heard of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole world. So I wanna
newspaper nips.
Yeah. Like there's a lot. Well, it's also not intensely wearable. It's yarn for the sake of yarn, which, from an artist's perspective, that's lovely. But like from a craftsman, like that's ridiculous because there's no purpose. Like there's no utility. But
you know, but there is paper yarn that's made by yarn companies for actual garments, and I've never
treated though, because I feel yarn would just disintegrate, or paper rather would just disintegrate if you do.
Yeah, I've never knit with any, but I'm very curious.
I'll send you some when I figure it out.
Sounds good. Beautiful.
Thank you.
And so this is a commission. So where are you going to be sending this off to?
Detroit, I think, though. I'm not quite sure.
That's pretty cool. Is this someone that you met on Instagram?
No, I have a Facebook page now.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I know. So
what's your Facebook page so people can find you?
Oh, it's Osayin, Osayyin. And then I'm gonna try to do like a little Instagram. I'm trying to market, but like that's not my. I mean, I did it for a career, but like it sucks. So, yeah. So we're trying it out.
Nice. Do you want to tell us a bit about the origin of the name of the company, of your Facebook page? Do you consider yourself a company, I guess?
I should probably start, right? Like I'm not quite there yet, but yeah. So it's a I'll just say it's part of the Nigerian folklore. Like they have their own specific mythology, and Osayin is part of just the herbal part of it. Well, of plants. So, and I'm outside of this, I really like plants, and I feel this is very similar to. Honestly, it's at this point it's a little personal. I'd rather not get into that. Like,
oh, that's of course.
Yeah,
that's totally fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is just so beautiful. We'll have to take a picture and put a close up in so people can see like all the pretty sparklies. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Do you have any other questions about braids and spinning? Anything that you'd like people to know that we didn't ask you about?
No. I mean, nothing I can think of.
Well, we can always add some stuff in the show notes afterwards, since we figured out how to do all that. And
I'm open to questions. If you decide you want to do this on your own, you're welcome to, right? I don't know.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you can always put questions or comments in the comments box, and we're happy to respond to them next time. Yeah, we can say that now.
Right? Yeah, so if you have questions for Angie, let us know. We'll make sure that we pass them along and she gets back to you. And thank you for coming and talking with us, and for agreeing to model my
Thank you for asking me.
Shawl.
That was really flattering. I was like, oh.
No, it was beautiful. And I have to say, so many people came into the shop yesterday to tell me how beautiful they think you are from the photos. So
thank you. Don't hear that every day. So that's really sweet.
So that was awesome. Yeah, so thank you for being part of that. Yeah. We hope that you folks enjoyed getting to know Angie a little bit. We'll have all of her Instagram and Facebook page information in the show notes, so please check her out and support her work. I think it's really cool and important to support people doing innovative things with fiber things.
And then next time we should talk about socks. We've got Sock Madness coming up. Maybe we can have Winnie come on the show. And she's a Sock Madness veteran, and this is going to be my first time doing it, and we'll see how much it overwhelms me. But I'll try anything once. And we can have our famed heated debate about needle sizes and needle styles for sock knitting.
If Winnie's here, we'll have lots of different perspectives, because I like double points, Winnie likes magic loop,
and I like 9-inch circs,
and we all have strong feelings about that. So we hope you'll join us for that next time. And yeah, we are Censored Double Decreases. I'm Anna,
and I'm Erin, and thanks for stopping by.
Bye.